All right, so today we're going to get started with 4.1, which is historical numeration systems. And we're going to take a look at, I think it's 3 different numeration systems in this section, and we'll add a couple more on when we get to 4.2. This is a historical perspective looking forward. So the first thing I want to talk with you about is what a mathematical system is. All right, so a mathematical system is made up of 3 components. The first is a set of elements. So we've talked about that before, right? Elements and sets. Yeah. The second item is one or more operations joining them. So operations for combining elements. And we haven't exactly talked about that. We talked about combining sets with things like unions and intersections, but we didn't talk about combining the specific elements from the set, so that's something a little different. And the third item is one or more relations for comparing elements. And the first numeration system I'm going to mention will be very brief. It's our system. We have a system called the Hindu-Arabic numeration system. So if you want to look really smart when you leave and go to lunch, you can go talk about the Hindu-Arabic numeration system, and most of the people you're talking to are going to think you're talking about something really impressive. And all you're really talking about is our number system. Okay? I know, it's exciting. And I want to talk about how our number system satisfies these conditions above. The first one, our number system has a set of elements. They're the numerals. What are our numerals? Do you know what I'm talking about when I say that? Yeah. And in fact, we'll start with 0 even, Glenn. So our numerals are the digits, the single digits that we use. And they go all the way up to 9. We actually have from 0 to 9. How many numerals do we have? 10, but 10 is not a numeral, right? It's combined of 2 numerals, 1 and 0. So our number system has a set of elements, 0 through 9. It has some operations. In fact, we've got lots of operations. The 4 basic operations are what? Addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And I'm going to put etc. because we've got lots more after that we can do. Things like squaring and stuff like that, different operations. The third issue is a way of relating or comparing elements, and we have several of those as well. Any idea what those are? Yeah, we have the symbols like greater than and less than and equal to, and we can combine those kind of too, right? Greater than or equal to, and I'm sorry, I wrote down greater than or equal to. I wrote down less than or equal to, and then of course there's greater than or equal to. There we go. So these are some of them. We also have one, there's one more, I guess. We could do not equal to. Those are our basic ways of comparing elements. All right, they're all up there now. So that's our system, all right? But we're not going to be working in our system in this section. We're going to be taking a look at some other systems. And the first one we're going to look at is the Egyptian numeration system. So think hieroglyphics, right? Which means we get to draw lots of interesting pictures, and I am not an artist, so some of you probably are, and you're going to do way better at this than I do. So let me tell you first what the values each are. The values of their symbols are all of our base 10 values. So they've got a value for the number 1 and a value for the number 10. We've got a value for the number 100 and 1,000 and let's go with 10,000 next, and 100,000. And their last value is actually for the number 1,000,000. Okay, so they've got symbols for all of these different values. The first symbol I can draw because it looks like that. And it's actually called, the description, what we would call it is that we would call it a stroke. I do okay on the number 10 as well, because that looks like this, which we've seen this symbol before. It looks like our intersection symbol, right? Upside down horseshoe or something like this. And they call this a heel bone. Things get a little bit trickier with the number 100, but still I'm doing okay. It looks like this. Kind of like a curly 9 or something like that. Okay, so it's called a scroll. The number 1,000 is where my art skills are probably not going to look so much like the books, but it looks something like this. And this is called a lotus flower. $10,000 looks something like this. And this is called a pointing finger. You use your imagination. For whatever reason, I really struggle with the number 100,000, but it looks something like this. And different books call it different things. Your book is calling it a burbo fish. Looks like burbot, but burbo fish. I've had other books that call it a whale, other books that call it a tadpole. So imagine that's something fish-looking like thing. It's got an eye even on there and a little mouth. Okay. And the last one has got to be my favorite. And I don't draw it well either, but it looks something like this. Hey, it looks better on the screen than normally mine does. So this is an astonished man. And I think he's astonished because he's worth $1 million. He should be astonished. He's worth a lot. He should not be astonished. He should be very pleased. All right, so this is a happy man. How about an excited man? All right. The nice thing about the Egyptian numeration system is that writing these symbols is just a repetition. So if I want to write the number 4, I do 4 strokes. If I want to write the number 40, I do 4 heel bones. If I want to write the number 4,000,000, I write 4 astonished men. Okay? So it's just a repetition of symbols. That's how their system works. The bad thing is that if you have a lot of 9s, you get to write really long symbols. Right? Like 9 astonished men or 9 lotus flowers. Okay? So it can be cumbersome to work with for that reason. What we're going to do is we're going to take a couple of these. See how bad my fish look? In fact, nothing on this screen looks very good. We're going to take one of their symbols, okay, one of their numerals, and we're going to turn it into our numeral. That's the first thing we're going to work with. All right, so jot those down because I don't think that they're in your note. It doesn't look like anybody printed notes, not very many of you, but they're out there. These are not in the printed material because I couldn't get them on the screen very well, and I think I have a way to do it next time I teach this, but I didn't come across that until just recently. So we're going to figure out what this number would mean for us, okay? So we do that by converting to our number system. So what is this first symbol? It's a pointing finger, and it's worth how much? 10,000. So this one right here is worth 10,000. So I'm going to do this in a couple steps here. What is this? So each of those lotus flowers are 1,000, and I've got 2 of them, so it's 2,000, right? Then I've got 2 of these heel bones, so that is 20, because the heel bones are each worth 10. And I have 3 strokes at the end, so that's 3. So I can take 10,000. Okay, nothing's showing up. 10,000, 2,000, 20, and 3, and I can combine them all, and what's my number? 12,023. There they are. Just like that, they show up. Okay, let's do the same thing with number 2. So what do we have right here? 3 fish. 300,000, you got it. I've got 3 scrolls. That is 300. 4 heel bones, 40. And then 2 strokes is 2. Now, one thing I will mention that I haven't actually said, but hopefully you've sort of seen that this is what's happening, is they always write the biggest symbol first. Do you see that? So we would never write a stroke and then a heel bone. That just doesn't ever happen in their number system, okay? They always write the biggest number first and then the next one down, okay? So what is my number here? 300,342. Is that cool? Okay, their number system is actually really easy to convert between. And so we're going to go the other direction now. So we're going to take one of our numbers and write it as their numerals. Okay, so this is where you get to practice your artistic abilities. All right, so I have 23,145. How do I get the 2, the 20,000? 2 pointing fingers, right. So I need to write 2 pointing fingers. How about that 3? That 3 is 3,000. How do I get 3,000? 3 flowers, right? Lovely, or at least workable. All right, how about the 100? 1 scroll. Oh, the 4 for 40. 4 heel bones. And generally speaking, your book does this, and I've had other books that don't, and it's not a big deal to me, but anytime it's more than 3 of the item, they tend to stack them. So you'll see them do this for your 4 heel bones, or just write 2 on top of the other 2. If you just put them all beside each other, that's fine with me. But and then 5 is 5 strokes. Look good? All right, how about 51,300? How do you get the 5? 5 fingers. None of those look the same as the next one. Do they, Michael? They're terrible, aren't they? Not so good. How about the number 1? Oh, you could stack them, yeah. You could stack them. Mine tend to look really long, so I guess that's probably why I don't think to stack them. But that's a good point, yeah. A lot of times they'll stack them. So, and then how about the 1? That's 1 flower. And then the 3? 3 scrolls. Those were terrible scrolls. Let's try those again. Much improved. Notice there's 2 zeros at the end, and I don't have to do anything to actually write the zeros. That's kind of friendly. I mean, like in our number system, we have to actually put a 0 in to hold the place, right? Theirs, they just don't write anything because the lack of them being there means there's nothing. Make sense? Okay. So this is Egyptians. And the Egyptians, we're going to look at how we would add in Egyptian, and we're going to look at how we would subtract in Egyptian. And I want you to be really cautious about how the directions go on this. But let me first sort of make some comments about the addition. So their addition is actually much like ours. they line up the same symbol, kind of like we line up our placeholders, right? And they sometimes need to, what I learned it called was carry over. Apparently the common term right now is regrouping, which is what it is, but carrying over is the language that I kind of grew up with. So carry over, and I'll put through regrouping. Working like we do from right to left. So we're going to try one, right? So you've got a big old blank space, and this is what you need to put in it. So you'll notice, right, that they're lined up, yeah, so that the scrolls are all right here, the heel bones are all here in the middle, and all our strokes are at the end. Okay, so draw those on your page. What I really, really want to point out to you is part of the directions here, because every time I teach this, and I'm sure some of you are going to do it to me too, people don't read the directions or they don't read them correctly. The directions say, add using regrouping as necessary. Convert each what? Answer to Hindu Arabic. It does not say convert the problem to Hindu Arabic. Okay? So I am not asked to find these numbers and write down that this is 142 on top, and this is 7? It was 74 on bottom, and draw a line and add in our system. That is not what the question is asking me to do. It is asking me to add it like I am an Egyptian, like I was really doing this problem without the benefit of our number system. And then when I'm done, I will take my solution and turn it into our number. Do you see the difference? Okay, so you're going to add the problem like you are an Egyptian. Okay, the process is very similar though. We start on the right-hand side with the strokes. How many strokes do you see? 6. So you're going to write down 6 strokes. So this is what I was pointing out. All right, 6 strokes, and we can stack them. Okay. How many heel bones do you see? 11. So we have 1 left over, and we're going to regroup 10 of them. Because 10 heel bones is actually worth what?
1 scroll.
1 scroll. So imagine taking 10 of these guys and turning them into a scroll. Very much like we carry in our system, right? When we get the number 11, we don't write the number 11 down. We write down a 1 and we carry a 1. Agreed? Same thing here. We don't write down 11 of these guys. We write down, in this case, 1 of them. And then we would add all of our scrolls up, and how many scrolls do we end up with? 2. What is this answer in Hindu Arabic form? 216. 216. So far, so good? That's addition. We're going to do subtraction as well. Subtraction, again, much like ours. Okay. Using regrouping, as needed. And regrouping is borrowing. That's sort of the language that we sometimes think of it as. Okay, so I'm going to flip the slide so you can write down what it is. So we have a lotus flower, and then we have 5 scrolls, 3 heels, 7 strokes, and then I have 2 scrolls, 7 heels, and 3 strokes. And I'm supposed to subtract. Okay, they're all lined up just like we want them to be, and so forth. And we subtract just like we do in our system, starting on the right-hand side. Okay? So what happens, and again, notice this, right? This says the answer is what's converted to Hindu Arabic, not the problem. All right, so if I have 7 strokes and I take 3 strokes away, how many left with? 4. Stack them if you like. But I run into a problem right now on this next one. Right now I have 3 heels, and I'm supposed to take 7 heels away, and there's not enough there to do that, right? So we borrow. We're going to take one of these scrolls and turn it into 10 heels. If you want to use colors, if you have like a colored pencil or something, just to kind of help yourself out, that would be fine. If you don't, that's fine too. It doesn't matter to me, but whatever helps you. So I now have how many heels on top? 13, and I need to take away 7, which means I have 6 heels. And then how many strokes do I actually have now on top? 4, not 5, right? One of them was borrowed over. So I have 4 left. I need to take 2 away, leaving me with 2. And then I have 1 flower because there was nothing I needed to take away from it, right? The answer in our form then is what? 1,200. I'm running out of space. Let me write it below. 1,200. I think you guys said 64. Does that sound right? 64. Okay. Do you remember the Romans? Do you remember their symbols? Okay. We're going to fill in their symbols, and we'll talk about their system next time, but their symbols are ones that we still use today. So they have several symbols. Their symbols all have values of either 1s or 5s, basically. So they have a value for the number 1, 5, 10, 50, 100, 500, and 1,000. And their symbols are easy to write. I like their symbols, very convenient, very clean. You know some of them. What's the symbol for the number 1? I. And we can either write it as a single stroke, or you can put the lines on the top and the bottom. It just depends on what resource you're looking at. What about 5? That's a V. And again, sometimes you see lines on the top and the bottom of that, depending on basically the font issue. What about 10? X. And then if you're like me, that's where I stop, because that usually takes care of all the outlines that I ever worked with in school, and that's where I saw them the most. But they have other symbols as well. So the number 50 is the symbol L. 100 is C. 500 is D. And 1,000 is M. Now, again, you don't have to memorize any of these symbols because you get a note card for your test, right? But we will pick up with the ancient Romans and talk about how they used their system